Good evening and welcome to From the City. My name is David Kramer and I will be your host tonight. In today's episode, we've got an interview with Adam Met, whom you might recognize as the A in the indie pop band AJR. Founded in 2005 by brothers Adam, Jack, and Ryan, AJR spent years street performing in New York City and sharing their music online. In 2012, AJR leapt into prominence with their platinum single, I'm Ready. To date, they've had 7 other platinum singles and have accumulated billions of streams with hits such as Bang, Weak, and World's Smallest Violin. But Adam doesn't just make music, he's also a founder and leader of Planet Reimagined, a nonprofit whose stated goal is to build a world of equality and human rights for people on a clean, healthy earth. He's the author of Amplify, a recently released book that advertises itself as a playbook for growing social activism movements. He also has a PhD in human rights law and sustainable development and is a professor at Columbia University. Be sure to stay tuned after the interview, where I'll give you my thoughts and takeaways. And now, without further delay, here is my interview with Adam Met.
Hello.
Hello. Is this...
How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good.
So I guess just to start this off, how would you like to be addressed? You know, you're professor, doctor, activist?
Well, I do also have my license to perform weddings from the Universal Life Church. So that is also another title. And I've performed 3 weddings in the last year and a half. So I don't know. I don't know how I'd like to be referred to. How about just Adam?
Adam works for me. And I know we don't have an unlimited amount of time. So in essence, who are you? How would you describe yourself?
You know what? That's a really funny question because I generally like when other people describe me because I don't know how to describe myself. And it generally depends on who the audience is. I mean, if we're talking about when I'm at a concert, I'm wearing my music hat. If we talk about when I'm at a conference, which I'm driving back from right now, it's either, professor, PhD, or activist, or policy writer, or executive director of Planet Reimagined. I really kind of change hats depending on where I am, depending on the audience. But I guess the more soul version of that question, who am I? I'm a person who likes to be creative while solving big problems. And so even on the music side of what I do, as a band, we built really creative, big structures in order to get to where we are today. So whether that means designing our own management company, figuring out new ways of touring, figuring out new marketing strategies, and releasing music. And then the same thing on the climate side and the advocacy side. Everything that I do and that we do at Planet Reimagined is creative, outside the box, new approaches to what we do. So if you had to dial it down, it's creative approaches to solving big problems.
It's interesting. You don't want to be pinned down to a singular category, or perhaps you feel you can't be, is what I'm hearing.
Honestly, I wake up in the morning and I do what makes me happy. And so if we want to pin it down to a category, I just feel extremely lucky that I'm in a position to do the kind of thing that makes me happy.
You know, there's many performers who are popular, but not all of them perhaps pivot or decide to have it central to their core being a climate activist. If that is how you would describe yourself today. So what motivates you to do this?
Climate is the largest, most existential threat to humanity that we have ever faced. It is interrelated to every other issue. Immigration, in the news every day right now. We are going to have the largest number of immigrants that we've ever had, a larger number of immigrants than we've ever had over the next 10 years due to the impacts of climate. Our health systems in the United States and around the world are going to be decimated because of heat-related illnesses, because of illnesses that come from insects and animals that traditionally live in other areas that are changing their habitats because of climate change. every single thing that we do, how we develop technology, how we grow things, how we build things, are all impacted by climate. So if we don't solve the climate problem, there is going to be nothing else for us to do. And so when I said before that I like to creatively solve big problems, for me, this is the biggest problem. This is the mother of all the problems that will help to take some of the stress off a lot of the other things that we need to solve. So that's why I decided to spend my time doing this.
How did this become your main focus? I mean, obviously, you were the lead singer of AJR for many years and still are. Where along the evolution of Adam Met can we say, oh, this is when he began being a climate activist?
So my interest in this started in high school. I went on a class trip when I was in high school, and I saw somebody speak. Her name is Mary Robinson. She is the former president of Ireland and the former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. And seeing her when I was 16 or 17 make the connection between human rights and climate, that was the thing that inspired me to start studying this in undergrad. And then I continued on to a master's and a PhD. And it's funny, it doesn't feel at all like a pivot to me. It feels that I was doing both of these things in concert. As the band was growing, I stayed in school. I did my master's. I had all my books on the back of the tour bus when we were on the road. I would go to England to work on my PhD, and then I would come back to the US to tour. So that was kind of the spark moment. But then I studied it in school. I ended up working with members of Congress and the White House under the Biden administration. I ended up working with the UN around their sustainability initiatives. And so it just kept growing and growing and growing until this became kind of the big part of my life that it is now.
Could you describe, what I find intriguing is, you are the lead singer of AJR, and all the other members of the band are your brothers. From what I can find online, they aren't climate activists. How is your devotion to climate change, how has that grown or shaped your relationship with the band, I suppose?
So just to clarify, I'm not the lead singer. I do sing when we're on stage, and I play the bass. But just for clarification there. But to answer your question, my brothers are very supportive of the work I do. We bring a lot of our advocacy work to our shows. We have opportunities for fans to participate. They have a lot of other side quests as well, in addition to AJR. They write music for other artists. They're in the middle of writing a Broadway show right now. And they are fully supportive of all the climate work I do. But that really is my thing that's separate from the band, even though there are a not insignificant number of lyrics in AJR songs around climate and around advocacy.
In fact, for the benefit of the listeners at home, I suppose, I first encountered you at a recording of a podcast where the song Inertia played. Well, perhaps you'd like to explain it here. How does the song Inertia relate to climate activism?
Yeah, sure. So the song Inertia is about inertia in all different forms, but mostly in people's lives, how they get stuck in things. And one of the lines leading into the chorus is, I was going to save the planet, but today I've got plans, which really feels like where the climate movement is right now. That people were, very excited about it, that they were participating in it, and then life got in the way, and it got really hard, and it got really time-consuming. So that line is one of the ones that I was talking about. Yeah, I was going to save the planet, but today I've got plans. For me, my inertia is different. I'm very much in that. So even if I wanted to do something else, my inertia is stuck on wanting to protect people on the planet.
Now, what I found intriguing about your interview there is many of the things that you said, I think, would offend many of the people in the climate movement. What struck me was, in particular, you said the vocabulary of the climate movement has been to its detriment, I suppose. It pushes people away. And would you like to expand on this and perhaps correct me if I'm wrong?
You are fully correct. The climate movement has done a horrendous job at being effective at bringing new people in. There are a lot of reasons why, but one of the main reasons is because of the lexicon that we have been using. And by lexicon, I mean, think about it this way. Climate change is so big, is so far away, it's existential. Sure, people have extreme weather events, but most people don't really connect those to climate change. And then think about how we talk about these issues, right? Net zero. What does net zero mean to anybody? It's we're trying to stay below 1.5 degrees. That's Celsius. In the US, we use Fahrenheit. It would make so much more sense for us to focus the movement on specific concrete things that people can see that can change in their own lives. It's about transportation, how we get from place to place. It's about the food that's on our plate, how we grow things. It's how we build things, how we make things, how we power things. Those are all the real concrete solutions to climate. The planet is going to be fine. Us using this word, this phrase of saving the planet is going to be fine. We're the ones that are not going to be fine. So I think that a restructuring of how we build this lexicon around climate change is something that we need to think about. It's very exclusionary. It's very elitist. It's assuming that people know about these things. And to get people involved in a movement, you need to go out and see the kinds of things that they're talking about and how they want to participate.
And so to that end, do you think, I mean, the climate movement has typically been very pessimistic, focusing on how things are going to get worse, so do something and stop it. Do you think there's room for optimism in the climate movement?
I think that the entire climate movement needs to focus on optimism because that pessimism machine has already been built out. There are plenty of news sources, plenty of people online talking about the negatives of this. But if we focus on what our future could look like, what a cool, interesting, different, funny, fun future could look like, that's going to be so much more effective because that's something people want to participate in rather than continuously talking about the negativity.
Do you have any specific examples of this this cool future, this an optimistic slant on climate?
Yeah, sure. So as we think about, I'll give you two examples. When you think about the way that everyone now loves shopping at thrift shops, that wasn't a normal thing, right? Thrift shops also happen to be good for the climate because we're reusing this clothing and materials and old furniture, things like that. That has been incorporated into culture and incorporated into the zeitgeist of at least American and in many other countries as well in popular culture. So taking the model of thrift shops, of farmers markets, same thing. A lot of people like understanding that their food is coming from somebody local. They like knowing who their farmer is. Those are kind of the beginnings of what this future is going to look like. But honestly, electric cars, the advances in electric cars have happened so fast over the last handful of years. Just last week, they announced that electric car sales have overtaken combustion engine vehicles in Europe. We are seeing this future roll out in front of us. And this is going to come from the kind of systemic change that we need. And what I mean by that is civic and political advocacy. So we're going to see where the Biden administration just barely touched the surface in what we're doing around renewable energy, around, again, how we're getting from place to place in a clean and sustainable way. But that's going to come from people engaging civically and politically. It's going to be from systemic change, not from people making small changes in their own lives.
What does a typical day-to-day look like for you?
My day-to-day, great question. When I wake up in the morning, honestly, I look at my calendar and it is just back to back to back. And then I look at it a second time and it's like, all of these things are things that I want to do. But when you're talking about music, it's more on the show side. So this year, for example, we did a big tour last year. This year is going to be a lot lighter. We'll do a handful of shows this year. But most of my time now is spent as the executive director of Planet Reimagined, working on our various projects. We have projects around energy, around movement building, around AI, around all of these different fields, and how they relate to climate. And then my day also incorporates a variety of things. Like I try to play piano every day. I try to learn new things and continue to grow my understanding of climate and other human rights and social justice areas. So it also involves a huge amount of travel. So whether it's shows or conferences or events or, what have you related to climate and related to music, I travel a ridiculous number of days per year.
Right. And are you still a professor as well?
Yeah, I teach in the fall at SIPA.
For those of you who are not aware, SIPA is Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs.
I co-teach the class with my co-founder of Planet Reimagined, Mila Rosenthal. She and I teach a climate campaigning and policy course at SIPA. So we just wrapped it up this fall, and hopefully we'll do it again this coming fall.
One last final question. 30 years from now, where do you see yourself? Where do you see the climate? It's a long way in the future, hard to predict, but what do you think?
Hopefully, I see myself working on a different big global problem because the climate problem will have been solved. That's, the dream scenario. When I talk about Planet Reimagined, our goal is for the organization to not need to exist 10, 15 years from now. That would be amazing for us to not have to solve this problem. But creativity and big problem solving is always going to be a part of what I do. Music is always going to be a part of what I do. It's how I love to live my life, and it's what makes me happy.
Here is my takeaway. Adam is proactive. He's leveraging his celebrity to try to make the world a better place. Very few band members of bands with millions of listeners do this. Though Adam is a prominent leader of Planet Reimagined, my inclination is to say that the real impact he's having on the world is through his somewhat contrarian views concerning the climate movement, and also being able to broadcast these views to millions of people through concerts, social media, and the press. Hearing him speak, especially in person, is exciting, fresh, and what he says is a dramatic change from what climate activists usually say. One of the points he made that I agree with and want to emphasize as this program comes to a close is that it's not about people making small changes in their individual lives to save the world. It's about systemic change through proper governing. It's getting people to care more about climate by presenting it not as climate, but through issues that the everyday person does care about. It's using terminology and having goals that everyone, not just climate activists, can comprehend. And it's taking climate change and just calling it change, which naturally leads to the question, do people want things to change? I'm willing to bet that yes, they do. From the City is written, produced, hosted, and entirely created by me, David Kramer. If you enjoyed this episode so much that you're listening to the credits, please consider sharing it with someone whom you think would enjoy it. Thank you, and goodbye.